I was 72 years old when my son stopped walking. Not because he was tired, but because he saw this. A small round door, hidden under grass, moss, and time itself. I had walked through this forest for over 40 years, hunted here, worked here, raised my family nearby, and yet no one ever told me what was buried beneath this hill. When I touched the handle, my father's words came back to me. "Some doors," he said, "are hidden for a reason." That was the moment I knew. This place was never meant to be found. My father stopped walking. He didn't say a word. He just stared at the hill. I followed his eyes. That's when I saw it. A round wooden door, half hidden under grass and moss. Not broken, not rotten, carefully built. My father slowly took off his backpack. His hands were shaking. "This place," he whispered, "I was never supposed to show you." I asked him what it was. He didn't answer. Instead, he walked closer, as if the forest itself was pulling him back. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't just an old shelter. This was his past. My father placed his hand on the door. He closed his eyes. "I lived here," he finally said, "long before you were born." He told me how, decades ago, after losing everything, he disappeared from the world. No phone, no address, no goodbye. This hidden home kept him alive when he had nowhere else to go. I looked at the door again, at the grass growing over the roof, at how carefully everything was hidden. Then I asked him the question he feared most. "Why did you never tell anyone?" He took a deep breath. "Because some places," he said, "are built to survive, not to be remembered." My father pulled an old key from his pocket. Not rusty, wrapped in cloth. "I kept it all these years," he said, "for no one." The lock resisted at first, then, click. The door opened slowly. Inside, the air was dry and cold. Shelves built into the walls, a small wooden table, a metal stove in the corner. Everything was still there, as if time had stopped and was waiting for him to return. Then I noticed something that made my father freeze. A name carved into the wall, his name, and a date from decades ago. That's when he realized this place hadn't been forgotten. It had been waiting. On the table, there was a small wooden box. No lock, just dust. My father opened it without hesitation. Inside were three things: a folded letter, an old photograph, and a child's carved wooden toy. The photo showed my father as a boy, standing in front of this same door. Next to him, another man, not his father. My father's hands started to shake. "I was brought here," he said quietly, "after my real father disappeared." The letter explained everything. Why this place was hidden, why no one was supposed to find it, and why he never spoke about it again. But the last line froze us both. "One day, you will return, and you must decide what this place becomes." My father sat down on the bench and stared at the letter. He read it again, slowly, line by line. "That man in the photo," he said, "was the one who hid me here." He explained how, as a child, he was brought to this place after the family fell apart. No school, no records, just silence and work. The shelter wasn't built to hide from the world. It was built to disappear. He pointed to the stove. "I learned how to keep a fire alive here." Then the shelves. How to store food. Then the door. How to leave no trace. I looked around again. Nothing here was random. Everything had a purpose. Then he said the sentence he had never said out loud. "I survived because of this place, and I hated it for the same reason." He folded the letter and stood up. "And now," he said, "it's your turn to know." I stood there, trying to picture my father as a boy in this place, sleeping on that bench, listening to the forest at night. I asked him the question I had been holding back. "Did anyone know you were here?" He shook his head. "Only one person," he said, "and he made sure no one else ever would." He told me how the man in the photo came once a month, always at night, never by the same path. Food was left on the table, tools were repaired. Then the door was closed again. No goodbyes, my father said. That's how you survive without being found. I looked back at the shelves, the stove, the door. Everything suddenly made sense. Then I asked the question that changed his expression. Why bring me here now? He didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, because I don't want this place to die with me. My father walked to the back wall and lifted a loose wooden panel. Behind it was a narrow shelf, hidden from sight. On the shelf lay a metal tin, sealed with tape. He cut it open with his knife. Inside were documents, old papers, maps drawn by hand, a list of dates and supplies. This place was checked every year, he said, even after I left. He showed me the last date on the list. Only 3 years ago. That means someone still knows, I said. He nodded. But they're old now, like me. He folded the maps and put them back carefully. I brought you because I can't carry this anymore, he said. My legs won't make the climb much longer. He pointed to the door. One day, someone will stumble on this place. If they don't understand it, they'll destroy it. He looked at me directly. For 40 years, this home kept secrets. Now it needs a keeper. Outside, a branch snapped. Not close, but close enough. We both turned toward the door. And that's when I understood. This wasn't just about the past, it was about what happens next. We stayed silent, listening. The sound came again. A branch snapping, then gravel shifting on stone. My father moved first. He stepped to the door and closed it halfway, leaving just a narrow gap. Light fell across the grass outside in a thin line. He pointed to the ground. Fresh marks. Boot prints, not ours. They didn't come by accident, he said. This path isn't visible unless you already know where to look. He reached under the table and pulled out a canvas bag. Inside were tools, old but clean, a flashlight with fresh batteries, a radio wrapped in cloth. I kept this ready, he said, just in case. We waited. The footsteps stopped, then moved away, slow and careful, like someone checking their bearings. My father exhaled for the first time. They won't find it today, he said, but they will come back. He looked at me, not like a father this time, but like someone passing on a responsibility. If this place is found without a story, he said, it becomes nothing but a hole in the ground. He placed the bag in my hands. That's why you needed to see it, he continued. So when the time comes, you can decide what it should be. Outside, the forest went quiet again. Too quiet. And I knew this was no longer just his secret. It was ours now. My father sat down heavily on the bench and rubbed his hands together. His fingers were stiff, the joints swollen from years of work and cold winters. I can't come back here alone anymore, he said. Even today, the climb almost finished me. He looked around the room one last time. The shelves, the stove, the carved marks on the wall showing height and years. This place kept me alive, he said, but it also kept me silent. He opened the stove door and placed one more piece of wood inside. The fire caught quickly, steady and controlled. We won't turn this into a secret again, he continued, and we won't let strangers tear it apart. He handed me the key. It was heavier than I expected. If someone finds it, he said, they'll need a reason to respect it. We packed only what mattered. The documents, the photograph, the letter. Before leaving, my father stopped at the door. He ran his hand once more across the wood. I hid here as a boy, he said, but I'm leaving as a man who finally told the truth. Outside, the forest looked different, not safer, but clearer. And as we stepped back onto the path, I understood this wasn't the end of the story. It was the moment it finally became real. We locked the door carefully and covered it again with grass and soil, just the way my father showed me. When we finished, the hill looked ordinary, as if nothing had ever been there. My father stood quietly, breathing hard. For a long moment, he didn't move. I thought keeping this secret made me strong, he said, but it only made me alone. He placed his hand on my shoulder. This place isn't meant to disappear, he continued. It's meant to be understood. We walked back through the forest slowly. No rush. No words we still needed to hide. At the edge of the trees, my father stopped and looked back one last time. "For years," he said, "I believed some homes should stay buried." Then he shook his head. "But homes don't disappear. People do." That evening, we wrote everything down. The dates, the reasons, the truth he had never spoken, not to expose it, not to turn it into a story for strangers, but so it wouldn't vanish when he was gone. If you're watching this and thinking about a place you never went back to, or a truth you never shared, you're not the only one. Some homes wait quietly. Some stories wait patiently. And sometimes it's not too late to open the door. If this story meant something to you, leave a comment. Even a single word is enough. And if you believe it's never too late to tell the truth, subscribe for more stories like this.